Hey friends, welcome back to another video. This one is so exciting to me because, as you can tell, I am no longer pregnant. So I'm still not showing faces, my children's faces online. So this is all you get to see. On November 4th at 6:24 p.m. we welcomed a new addition to our family. And we had a baby girl. Her name is Lillian Renee, and we are over the moon, ecstatic, in love, living on cloud nine with her. She has been already such a good baby. She sleeps well, she's eating well, everything has been going 100% opposite of what happened with Connor. And if you don't know, I'll throw in my birth story here for you guys to go watch. But now you get the birth story of my sweet Lillian Renee. Okay, so to start off, if you've been following me for a while, then you know that I struggled with low platelets and low iron within my entire pregnancy. And with that, I had 2 iron infusions, one at 35 weeks and one at 36 weeks. And my platelets, they put me on prednisone to hopefully increase them, which they did ever so slightly. They went from like a 71 to an 84, and then they're supposed to be over 100 for those of you who don't know. Originally, my doctors diagnosed me with gestational thrombocytopenia, which is just low platelets in pregnancy. But then on November 3rd, I had an appointment with a hematologist, and she said those with gestational thrombocytopenia their platelets do not drop below 100. So they do not think that I have that. They think I have an autoimmune disorder that has to do with my platelets, or in their terms, ITP. I'm not 100% sure what that stands for. I'll look it up and then I'll throw it in here somewhere so you can read it. But it's basically ITP. So in the new year, I am meeting with this hematologist again and getting some blood work done, and we're going to get to the bottom of why my platelets drop so low in pregnancy, so that next time we don't have to be so concerned about them dropping. That same day that I spoke with the hematologist, I also spoke with an OBGYN to go over my induction. And so that appointment did not go as expected or as planned, because in my head, we were just going to discuss an induction date. And she said, because of my low platelets and because of my previous C-section, she was not going to induce me. My body would have to go into spontaneous labor. But with that, they thought I had hypertension. And so they could not wait for my body to go into spontaneous labor, and we were going to schedule in another C-section. And because of my low platelets, it would have to be done again through general anesthetic, same as Connor. When that appointment was over, my heart sank. I was so incredibly discouraged that I could not go with a VBAC. And I spent the entire day in tears and praying and asking the Lord for a miracle, and if not, then just to give me strength to go through another C-section and to give me wisdom on how to deal with the recovery, especially since my 3-year-old boy isn't walking yet, and I wouldn't be able to lift him or carry him for 6 weeks afterwards. And all around, I was just very discouraged about that. For the previous 3 weeks leading up to November 4th, I was having what they call prodromal labor. So the same time, every single day, about 2 or 3 times a day, I would have very consistent Braxton Hicks. And they would last for about an hour, 2 hours maybe. They'd be about 10 minutes apart, lasting about 1 minute. And some of them were quite painful, to the point of where my contraction app was telling me time to get ready to go to the hospital. So November 3rd in the evening, we decided to put up our Christmas tree, and we had such a good time. We had Christmas music playing in the background. We kept Connor up a little bit later to help us with the tree, and all around it was an evening I really needed after the day I had, to just spend time with my husband and my son, and to kind of forget about the conversations I had had that day with those two doctors. And yeah, that night, sorry, I have notes on my phone or I'm not going to get this straight. So that night when we went to bed, I remember laying down and again feeling very discouraged that I was about to have another C-section probably that following week because of my hypertension. And actually the hypertension was caused by the prednisone that I was put on, and with ITP, prednisone was not the right medication to put me on. Technically, I needed a platelet transfusion, which we did not have time to do because we didn't know. Everybody thought that I had gestational thrombocytopenia. So the hypertension was caused by the prednisone, and now I had to continue tapering off of it even though I didn't need to be on it, and it caused really bad water retention and, you know, all those things. So that night I went to bed and I said, Lord, you are a God of miracles, and I know and I believe that you can put me into labor tonight so that I will not need a C-section. I prayed that prayer and I went to bed. And at the same time that night, usually my prodromal labor always came on around like 1 or 2 in the morning. And so now it was about 2:33 in the morning. It woke me again, and it kept me up for about half an hour where I was timing my contractions, and they were consistent, and I was getting very frustrated because I'm like, this keeps happening every single night and it keeps getting my hopes up. So I stopped timing them and just went back to bed. Around 5 that morning, I got woken by an extreme sharp pain in my lower abdomen. And I'm like, that was weird. So I just thought, whatever, it's just another false alarm. And I went back to bed. Shortly after, I got woken again by another one, and it was even more painful than the last. So I figured, well, if it's false labor, if you get up, walk around, drink some water, have a snack, they usually go away. So I got up, and as I stood up, my water started to break. And so I woke Brent at 5:30, and we got ready to go to the hospital. So we called my neighbor across the street, because she was our contact just in case I went into labor at night, to come over and watch Connor. She got here around 6, and that is when we left. And my contractions were 2 minutes apart, lasting about 45 seconds. So we called the hospital that I was going to be delivering at, and it's about an hour's drive. There is a hospital closer, but that hospital, my doctor is not at that one. So there is a closer hospital. They told me to go to the closer one because if my contractions are 2 minutes apart, we didn't know if we would last the hour drive. And we definitely did not want to deliver on the highway. So we went to the closer hospital and they checked me, and I was only 3 centimeters dilated, and my cervix was very, very, very far back. So, and the monitor wasn't even picking up my contractions, even though I was having them and my water did break. And by then my contractions had tapered off, and I was able to get to the other hospital. Brent couldn't drive me though, just in case. So I got sent to that hospital by ambulance, and that gave Brent time to come home and grab some things that we had forgotten to put in our suitcase. So the drive to the other hospital in the ambulance, the EMT was timing my contractions, and they were like from 6 minutes apart to 15 minutes apart. So they weren't very consistent anymore. So we got to the other hospital, the one I wanted to deliver at, my doctor is, around 9 a.m. Oh, I should also say, before they sent me set me in the ambulance to go to the other hospital. They placed a couple of IVs just in case I needed blood transfusions, and because my B-strep test hadn't come back and they needed to know if I had it, or at least to start me on antibiotics just in case. So they ended up starting me on antibiotics just in case for B-strep, because we did not want to deal with that at all. And it's funny, my sister texted me around 7 in the morning, and she asked, "Are you awake?" And this is the picture that I sent her. I said, "Sort of." And then she called me and I explained that I was actually, my water had broken and I was in labor. So that was kind of funny. We got to the hospital that I wanted to deliver at around 9 in the morning. And there I was greeted by the nurse that was going to be with me all day and a resident doctor. Now, unfortunately, my doctor, who I wanted really badly to deliver this baby, wasn't in. She was, I think, on vacation. So one of her colleagues was in, and he had 2 resident doctors working underneath him. So one of the resident doctors came in and started questioning me about everything that was going on. And he was super, super nice. And then shortly after that, I got some blood work done to see where my platelets were. On Friday, I had gotten them tested and they were sitting at 71, so pretty low. So they wanted to see where they were at now the next day. You know, I guess they needed to have backup blood ready just in case. So they got my platelets checked, and then Brent arrived. After Brent got there, my doctor's colleague came in and introduced himself and all that, and immediately we're like, we really like this guy, he's going to be fantastic. But at this point we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to have a VBAC, or if the OBGYN that I had talked to on Friday was still going to insist on me having a C-section, because she was on call that night and she originally said to send me over to this hospital. But now she was off and her colleague was taking her place, and so we weren't sure if we were still supposed to have a C-section or if we were going to be able to attempt a VBAC. So the doctor that came in to talk to us, not the OB, just the regular doctor, he said, "I can attempt a VBAC." It was totally fine. He had full confidence that I could do it, so I was there to give it a whirl. So he left us to it, and by then my contractions had gone from 6 minutes apart to 20 minutes apart, and then 30 minutes apart. And that was super, super discouraging, because I was like, if they're going to be this long apart, my water is broken, and I know most doctors let you go 24 hours before you have to do something about it, and you know, stress. And that's not something a woman in labor needs, is to stress about anything. Then a nurse came in and she informed me that my platelets had gone from 71 to 79. And when she came in and said that, I was in the middle of a contraction, so I was leaning over the bed sitting on my ball. And when she had said that, I immediately started to cry. And I'm like, thank you, Lord. Like, that, to me, that was a miracle. It's not a huge jump, but the fact that without being on medication and with my body going into labor and all these things, it was a Lord thing that my platelets started to rise even before my baby was born. And so to us, that was a complete miracle. Right after she came in, the OBGYN on call came in and she started pushing for oxytocin. She wanted me to get labor going and get this baby out and be done with it. And I was scared of oxytocin because I was told my chances of a uterine rupture were doubled because of my low platelets and my prior C-section. So she didn't want to put me on oxytocin. Now this OBGYN was telling me to go on it to get labor going. And so I had this huge fear of being put on the drip. And so when she left, my doctor came back in and he said I did not need to be put on oxytocin. If I was not comfortable with it, everything was up to me. And he reassured me that because my body had gone into spontaneous labor, that the chances of a uterine rupture had dropped because I was already in labor. The oxytocin wasn't putting me in labor, it was just going to encourage it to continue, because mine had slowed down quite a bit. So he left, and then the OBGYN came back in shortly after, and she started pushing for it again. And so I finally told her, if by 2 o'clock in the afternoon nothing has progressed, then I will take the oxytocin. So she left, and I tried so hard to get labor going. And because I had a chance of a C-section, because of my prior one, they had me on a liquid diet. So when lunchtime came around, I got bone broth, Jello, and a cup of tea, which isn't very filling, but that's all I had to eat that day. So whatever, I downed it. Anyway, 2 o'clock came around, nothing had happened. And the nurse had asked me, do you want me to start the drip? And I said, no, I need a little bit more time. Give me 1 more hour. So Brent had a nap because we weren't sure how long this was gonna last. And I really needed him to be awake and alert for me when active labor started. So he had a nap. And during his nap, we had the hockey game going on too, because why not, right? So while Brent was napping and I was watching hockey, I was trying to get my labor to progress. So I was like bouncing on my ball, walking around, trying different positions, all these things, and nothing was working. The only time I would get a contraction is when I would change positions, and that wasn't making anything progress. And so 3 o'clock came, and I told my nurse, okay, we will start the oxytocin. So by 4 o'clock, I was hooked up and they had started my drip. Brent says by 4:10, my contractions had picked up. I don't remember the time at this point. All I know is when they started, they were there. And they only had to increase my oxytocin, I think, 2 times. So they called it an oxy whiff. I didn't need to be induced. I just needed what they called an oxy whiff. Like my body just needed a small little, like a small dose to get things going, and they were right. So 4:10, my contractions started, and they were, but I don't know how far apart they were, but they were not very far apart. They were very close together. I just stopped timing them. And so because of my low platelets, an epidural wasn't an option. Not that I wanted one anyway, but it wasn't even an option for me. So I had to find different methods for pain management. And I've always heard the most natural and best one you can do is standing in hot water or in a shower. So the nurse brought Brent a big bowl of ice water with 2 cloths, and I stood in a hot shower, and each contraction Brent would put a cold cloth on my forehead and my neck. And then between each contraction, he had barely enough time to cool them off and put them back. So that lasted for about an hour and a half. And then the nurse came in and said that if I wanted to try sitting in a hot bath, we could try that. So we filled the tub and I sat down, and honestly, the pain was so bad that sitting made it worse. I had to stand. That was the only way that the pain wasn't like unbearable. So we drained the tub, I stood back up, and we continued going through labor that way. And I remember telling Brent that I couldn't do this anymore. The pain was getting too bad, and I just wanted to go for a C-section. I could not do this anymore. I was done. Then at that point, the nurse had said, well, maybe we should check to see how far she's dilated. So they helped me to the bed, and I could hardly even lay down. Like the pain was unbearable. And when they checked me, I was fully dilated and ready to start pushing. So around 6:15 or so, I started pushing. I pushed for 35 minutes, and our baby girl made her appearance at 6:42 p.m. And everything went so smooth, and I'm ready. Well, ready. No, I'm not ready. Once my little girl turns 1, I will be ready to get pregnant and have another. If my labors go that smooth, I am okay with, I can do it. Yeah, it was like the hardest day of my life, but 100% worth it, especially once like they put her on my chest and everything was said and done. I could not believe what I had just done, and my doctor was so fantastic. Like I keep going back to how our day was, and I was just so thankful for him and for his support. He supported any decision I wanted to make. He trained under midwives, so he told me when he comes to give his patients advice, he will give them a doctor opinion, like medical advice, and then he would give you the advice that he would give a friend. And so he gave you 2 opinions, and then he supported both of them. And so any decision we wanted to make, he was 100% backing us up on, and he was an absolute godsend. Like, I prayed my entire pregnancy that we would have a smooth labor and a good medical team and everything. And from the beginning of my labor to the end, everything was just 100% perfect. And I was up and walking and went to the bathroom 2 hours after she was born. So I can't complain. I really, really can't complain. And then we were in the hospital all of Sunday, and then Monday we got released and got to come home. And now looking back, I need to talk about the power of prayer, because from the beginning of my pregnancy, actually before I even got pregnant, I told the Lord that I wanted to be pregnant by my birthday. I didn't care how far along I was. I just wanted to have a healthy pregnancy by my birthday, and I prayed this in February. And in March we found out we were pregnant, and in my head we were just going to miscarry again, because, you know, oh ye of little faith, and that was me. And so when we carried to term, that was just an absolute miracle to us. And the funny thing is, when we found out we were pregnant, my due date, like the day she was supposed to be born, the day I hit 40 weeks, was November 22nd. And that date is very special. Well, special. It's a date that it's, I'll just go out and say it. That's the day that my grandpa died 7 years ago. So to pray that I would be pregnant by my birthday, and to find out that we are pregnant and we're due on that exact day, to me, again, that was just a God thing. It kind of gave me a little bit of peace knowing that this pregnancy would be viable, and that my baby would live and I wouldn't miscarry again. But the Lord not only answered that prayer, he also answered prayers throughout my pregnancy. So we prayed that I wouldn't have gestational diabetes, and we didn't. We prayed for a good doctor, and we got quite a few good doctors. We prayed that I wouldn't need a C-section, and I didn't have a C-section. We prayed for a successful VBAC, and I had a successful VBAC. Prayed that I wouldn't need stitches, and I didn't need stitches. And our doctor was just a huge answer to prayer. I can't say that often enough. Honestly, the next time we get pregnant, he's the doctor that I'm requesting to see, because he was just absolutely incredible. He was an incredible doctor, and I basically need him now for my other pregnancies. Even my husband was like that. He was an absolute godsend. Like, we are so thankful for him, and we 100% plan on sending him a thank you note and a family picture, because he seemed intrigued there too with Connor's AMC and had so many questions about it. So we want to send him a family picture and a letter saying how much we appreciated him, and how much that he was an answer to our prayers. So with that being said, I'm going to be ending the video here. We are so thankful for our precious little girl, and I have really been enjoying snuggling her, and I have been taking a lot of time to cherish these moments and to sit with her, and I've been leaving my housework behind, because she's not going to stay little forever, and I don't want to forget these moments. I want to cherish every single one. And I am so incredibly thankful for the pregnancy that I had, and the labor and delivery that we had, and for my little baby girl. So thank you so much for watching. I'll stop ranting now. I just can't. Yeah, that's basically how I feel. I can't even get words out with how happy and thankful I am for for this precious little miracle baby and the gift that she has already been to our family and our church family and our friends. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more content, I'm going to be diving into Christmas videos here soon. So subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when I upload again, and I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye, guys. But if I'm in the second trimester and you're watching this, then the Lord has performed a miracle and you are a witness to that miracle.
Come rain down your presence, Jesus, come inhabit the praise of the sinner and saint. Jesus, come.